Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video and another plug side chat. So recently Mark Russ of GM, he was doing an interview with Bloomberg and he was discussing GM's heavy duty truck plant in Flint. Part of the topic of conversation came out of his being asked about GM's flexibility in transitioning to electric vehicle platforms, including trucks. Now, I feel like the reaction that I've seen from the electric vehicle media community, one, I think the comments I've seen are born mostly out of ignorance and negativity toward GM, but two, they ignored a lot of key things that Mark Russ spoke about, which I think cannot be ignored. The first thing is he's talking specifically about heavy duty trucks. And by comparison, the trucks that we're currently seeing proposed from Rivian and Tesla, those really don't pass muster when it comes to a heavy duty work truck. Their towing capacity is really low, their cargo capacity is really low, and frankly, their range is really low, especially when you consider, okay, Rivian is claiming a 400-mile range on their truck. Well, I'm guessing that's the base range, right? What happens when you're hauling a 10,000-pound trailer? That range is going to go to almost nothing. And those are the types of things that Mark was speaking about. And I think people missed the fact that he was addressing there are different types of trucks. There are light duty work trucks, there are heavy duty work trucks, there are, compact trucks, there are essentially those weekend trail runner trucks that I think is what primarily Rivian and Tesla are looking to create. And, a lot of times those trucks do end up costing a lot more money, but they're a lot less functional and they're really not focused on the working class truck buyer market, right? So it would be like comparing, say, something like the Ford Raptor versus the standard Ford F-150. Sure, the Raptor's fast. The Raptor has all, four-wheel drive, good ground clearance, good approach and departure angles, uh, but you don't really see them on work sites, and there's a reason for that. It's just not up to the task. But people are willing to spend $50,000, $60,000 or more for those Ford Raptors, even though they're essentially just a weekend toy. But he did acknowledge that, that's also a market. But he's being interviewed in a discussion about heavy duty work trucks. And he said that there are barriers to entry. And I think to ignore those barriers, I think you're being intentionally obtuse at that point and you're showing your ignorance. And really, if you ignore those types of obstacles, what it leads to is overpromising and under-delivering, which we've seen from some of these electric vehicle companies. However, GM hasn't really been doing that. They've been under-promising, and when it comes time, they've been over-delivering. And so it does sort of show that difference in mindset, right? Where you're talking about a truck that really for a working class individual needs to reach price parity. Now, Mark did say that he feels that they need to be cheaper, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think price parity or even slightly more expensive is acceptable solely because the operating and ownership costs are going to be lower for an electric truck than they will be for a gas powered or diesel powered internal combustion vehicle, right? So I don't necessarily agree with him on that specific point, but I do agree with him. EV trucks need to get cheaper. You can buy a Silverado heavy duty for under $40,000 right now. And you're talking about a truck with a towing capacity that's 50% or more greater than what Rivian's R1T is going to come with. So essentially, you're talking about a truck that's a third less money with 50% more capacity minimum in terms of towing and capability, not to mention range. And then the other thing that Mark addressed that I think is being overlooked or just sort of pushed or brushed aside by the EV media is infrastructure, because frankly, it's just not there. This is counting Tesla, this is counting Electrify America, EV Go, ChargePoint, whoever you want to throw at this, right? The infrastructure for heavy duty work trucks is not there. And no, the superchargers, they don't count either. Look at Tesla when they're testing their semi right now. They're blocking out several supercharger stalls at a time just to plug in one truck. Now, part of that is because of the configuration of the plug, but part of it is because of the size of the vehicle. And when you're talking about a heavy duty work truck, you're pulling a 10, 15, 20,000 pound trailer that's going to be 15, 20, 30 feet long sometimes. You're not going to be able to use any of the currently deployed infrastructure. Like I said, whether it's the public charging infrastructure or Tesla's private network, it's just not configured for trucks that are towing. I know a lot of people here follow Bjorn Neeland, and we're talking about a mid-sized SUV in his Model X towing a very small trailer, and half the time he has to unhook the trailer and set it aside at a different point in the parking lot just to plug in to charge. That's not going to be acceptable for someone who's using a truck for work purposes. You need full length pass through charging infrastructure where a truck hauling a trailer can pull in, plug in, the driver can go do what he needs to do, and when it's done and he's ready to leave, he just drives right out again. And the configuration of the current public charging infrastructure just doesn't facilitate that. And then he also mentioned charging speeds, and he's absolutely right, because you're looking at these work trucks, they really need to have a range of at least 400 to 500 miles really under load, not just while they're, driving without any trailer or any sort of load. They need 400 to 500 miles of range while driving under a load, and you need to be able to recharge that quickly. Sure, there's battery technology on the horizon where we might see 4 times the energy density that we see out of current batteries, and then you're saying, okay, fine, a 1,000 to 1,500 pound battery, might be able to supply 400 kilowatt hours of energy. Well, you need to be able to recharge that 400 kilowatt hour battery in a relatively brisk amount of time. Even these 350 kilowatt chargers that Electrify America is releasing aren't going to be fast enough. You really need something that's going to be closer to a 500 kilowatt charger, and maybe even then you're going to need something like a split battery so you can charge them on 2 different 500 kilowatt chargers at the same time. And that's a huge hurdle, because now you're just hoping that people can get in and out of a fueling station in 30 to 40 minutes. And hauling trailers, that's going to be a big task. I know people refer to Tesla's semi and see, well, they're going to be able to do it, but that's not proven yet. And even still, when you're dealing with a commercial vehicle as opposed to a private contractor individual who's working, hauling around a tractor, delivering a tiny home, whatever this person happens to be doing with their heavy duty truck, they're not fitting into that structure where you can say, okay, this is the route from this Walmart store to this Walmart store. It's 400 miles. We're going to put a dedicated semi truck charger in between because our commercial client is going to pay for it. No, you don't have that option, right? You need to be able to support all of the public and their dynamic needs as small businesses and individual contractors. So these are serious hurdles, and I don't think that Mark was off base in recognizing them and acknowledging them. Now, again, though, I'm a huge advocate for EV trucks, and I think GM definitely needs to get moving on EV trucks, but I don't know that heavy duty trucks are going to be the best use of their time right now. But there's no reason why they couldn't release a 70 to 80 kilowatt hour Colorado EV truck that's just used for basic duty. Maybe it's just a weekend hauler, maybe it's just a camping truck, but it needs to be available. And that's something that you could do close to price parity right now. The heavy duty trucks, yeah, that's going to take a while. And I think we're being foolish if we don't agree, because I think Mark has a better vision into what's going on with GM and what's going on with their customers. And frankly, I think a lot of these Silicon Valley companies and a lot of their advocates are just out of touch with the realities of working class America. Just putting it, bluntly. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you actually have a work truck that you actually use? Do you need cargo capacity? Do you need the ability to tow more than 10, 15,000 pounds? Do you do regular long hauls in a truck? If you do, what kind of truck are you currently using? And based on what I said, do you agree with my assessment of what the infrastructure needs to be in order to support an EV truck with that sort of capacity and with that sort of a route in mind? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and thank you for watching.